Hi everyone, I have recently purchased a 2013 Mercedes C300, and today I'm going to be replacing a piece of trim on the steering wheel. When I bought the car, it was used, obviously. Bring you around here and show you. The steering wheel has a piece of trim on it that kind of got a bad spot on it, and so I'm going to try and fix that spot. So if you look right here, you can see down there on the bottom of that piece of trim is starting to flake off the metal on it. And in order to get that piece of trim off, we're going to have to remove the airbag, which is right here. So to get started with that, the first thing we want to do anytime you're messing with the airbag is to disconnect the battery. And give it a couple minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes with the battery disconnected to make sure none of those circuits in the airbag are powered. So to get started, this is kind of an interesting, if you look down here where the hood release would normally be, there's no indication that there's a hood release there at all. It's just a parking brake here. But the hood release is actually under here, right kind of where you'd expect it. If you reach around underneath there, there's a little red tab. Let me see if I can get the light under there and show you right where it is. So. And you just pull on that tab and the hood will pop open, but I don't ever recall, there it is, a little red tab right there. I don't ever recall seeing a car that didn't show you, like with a little arrow or something, that's where the hood release is, but that's it. So, we'll go around in front and start taking the battery, disconnecting the battery rather. Okay, so we got the hood open. Battery's located back here on the back passenger side, right underneath this cover here. This is kind of a neat option I hadn't noticed before. If you ever want to jump start the battery on this, you just do the positive terminal here, which connects up and goes to the battery, and the negative ground somewhere, and you don't have to remove all this to get into the battery if you needed to jump. But to take this cover off, the battery's underneath here. There's a little clip back here that you just push to the left and spin it around, and then there's a clip underneath here, a little metal clip that you kind of pull up on. And there's the clip right there. It just goes into a slot. And then there's supposed to be another one over here that slides around just like the first one I showed you, but mine apparently has been broken off, so there isn't one there. And then once you get those three disconnected, this whole piece will sort of pull right off like that, and there's your battery underneath right there. So we want to disconnect the positive terminal, which will be underneath this little piece, and that just pulls up. It's got two little slots there that go into two poles, two little red there and there, that go into two slots in the battery there and hold it in place. And then right there is the disconnect for the battery. There we go. So I'll go get some wrenches, and we'll see if we can get that disconnected. Take that little nut off. It's right here. It's a 10 millimeter. And then I'm going to pull this out of the way, and it looks like I'm going to need to get this little washer out of the way. And then I think we'll be able to pull this terminal loose. So there we go, and keep those. And this, the thread there, looks like it's got a piece on the bottom that just kind of pull up on. Let's see if you can see. I can't get the camera on so you can see that. It's got a little piece that it pulls on from below that once you start tightening it will hold that thread in place so it won't spin around. But now we're just going to try and see if we can pull that terminal off. So get this terminal off. I just pulled the whole thing straight up. There we go, like so. And that, now you can see that little piece I was talking about down there, the thread that it sort of holds that, the way it's shaped to hold it so it won't spin when you try and take it off. But we're going to try and see if I can figure out some way to keep this off of the battery terminal. Just lay something in between there maybe. And then let the battery let the car sit with the battery disconnected for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Just make sure all that electricity's out before I start playing with the airbag up in the cabin. Okay, so this isn't necessarily the most pretty way to do it, but basically I found a flour bag. We just happen to have a flour bag that my wife was getting ready to throw out. It's completely dry, so I just folded it over a couple times, set it between the battery and the the terminal there, and that way they'll be separated, no electricity can get through there. And I'm going to let this sit now for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll get started in the front. So we're back in the cabin, and to get started here, there's two T20 Torx. There and there we got to get out. If you're not familiar, that is what a Torx head looks like. T20. So we'll get those two out, and then we'll go from there. So we've removed the two T20 Torx from here and here, and next we have to get the airbag out. And the way you do that is there's a little dimple here, and there's an identical one on the other side. So what we're going to have to do is take a flathead screwdriver and push it through that dimple. And on the inside, there's a little tab that you'll kind of have to feel around for and push on, and that will release the airbag. When you push on that tab, this side will just pop right up. So we'll do that next. Alright, so I'm going to go in back here, see if I can find that little tab, and you just have to push through here. There's supposed to be a little push button back here we can push. Okay guys, so I went ahead and dug in there and found the two release clips, and I want to show you because it'll be easier to see it like this. So each side, as you push on the lever, will pop out, and then the whole airbag is just loose and it'll come like this. There's a little yellow clip down there we have to get out. It's got two little tabs, one on the top and one on the bottom. You just squeeze the top one down and the bottom one up, and this should wiggle right out. If I can get my hand down in there to do it so you can see what's going on. Let me try a screwdriver. There it goes. Okay, got it. Alright, so now the airbag's out. So what we were looking at when we were trying to get it to release is this little wire right here. And if you look right here, you can see the dimple where I put my screwdriver through. And so the idea is, let me just show you here. You put your screwdriver in like this. When you first touch it, you'll feel this metal, and then there's a little place here for it to go in, and let it slide in there, and then you're pushing that like that, and that's what releases the airbag. So you got to give it a pretty good push, and when you push far enough, the whole bag will just pop out. But as you come into this hole initially, you'll feel like a little piece of metal right there. So just get that angle right, follow that metal down, and then you'll hit a wire, and that wire is what you're pushing on to get the airbag to release. So now that the airbag is out of the way, to get this little piece of trim off, we've got two more T20 hex that we'll have to take out. So I'm going to take my little hex drive, we'll take those off, and then we'll see what we need to do to get the electrics of these guys, all those buttons, how they're held in there, and we'll try and get that piece replaced. Alright, so now we're just going to pull this. We got the two T20 hexes out here. They are different from the ones around back, so make sure you keep them separate. And now I'm just gently going to pull on this, because there's a bunch of electrics you can see here and here that run around to those buttons. And I do not want to mess any of that stuff up. So in order to make this a lot easier to work with, I disconnected this, which you pull up on a little tab here, and this piece will pull out. And then along the edges, this wire was just run through that groove there and through this groove here, and I just gently pulled them out. And then this whole thing will pop off like so, and now I can come back here and we can see a lot better what's going on. So we have a connector here which I was trying to disconnect, but what I really need to do is take these two hex screws out, and I'm guessing this whole thing will just pop right out and we can switch them over to the new piece. So I'll do that and show you what it looks like when I'm done. So now I've removed the two hex screws I just told you about. They are T20 Torx as well, so that same Torx bit will take these two out. And it turns out there was a third one up here I couldn't see because the wire was in the way, so there's three of them there. So you take those three T20s out, and then this whole piece will just slide right out, and we'll just put that into the new one. Do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll be ready to install the new trim piece. Okay, so I have the new piece in. On this side, I've got the Torx screws back in, and I wanted to make a quick point out to you here. When I started putting this first one in, it felt like it was really hard to turn in, and I was afraid I was cross-threading this new piece. But if you look over here on this one, there actually are no threads in there, so you're actually making the threads. It's like a self-threading screw. So when you put this in, just make sure you have it aligned right, and then you're going to have to turn on it. You have to crank on it a little bit because you'll be making the threads as you put this in. And so I just wanted to point that out to you, that if it feels like it's hard to turn, you're not cross-threading it. You're actually creating the threads as you go. We have the new piece on. You can see here I've threaded this wire back through here. I've plugged this connector in, and I've threaded the same thing on this side, just like I did on the other side. So now I've got to put these two hex screws back in real quick. We'll do that, and then I want to show you on the airbag exactly how that airbag's fitting in. Where the toughest part of this for me was getting that airbag disconnected and finding that wire. And I'm going to show you real quick on the airbag how that's sitting in there and what that wire is doing. So let me get these in real quick, and I will show you how that works. Alright, that's down good. This one's down good. Good. Alright, so on the back side of the airbag sits in here like this, and we're going to have to connect it. Put this little yellow connector I showed you that we disconnected. We'll connect that back in a second. But this wire that we were pushing on here with our screwdriver that we had to punch through the back side of the steering wheel to get to, that connects to this right here. So if you look at this little spring comes down, when this little triangular piece goes in there, that wire connects around the back side of that triangular piece, and when you push it back in, it'll move this wire out of the way, and then it'll snap in behind this little triangular piece, and that's what's holding the airbag in place while you're driving. So this should only fit in one direction, the other way it shouldn't go. So that's clicked in like that, it just clicks right in place, and then we line up the airbag like so, and this should just snap in like that. So the steering wheel is back in place now, and now all we have left to do is connect the two, or replace the two little screws that went back here, and then connect up the battery, and we should be good to go. And that is how you replace the steering wheel trim on a 2013 Mercedes Benz C300. Thanks for watching.